Quick, Robin, to the Batmobile! Holy Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all of the YouTube rigmarole. Today, we're taking a look at the DC Multiverse Dark Knight's Death Metal Batmobeast. Starting off the packaging, and this thing is a behemoth. DC Multiverse logo and Batmobeast down there. There's actually a cardboard wedge in there to help keep it in place. Batmobeast and Dark Knight's Death Metal up top, UPC on the bottom for those who want it, and some product shots on the back. This rocky cliff diorama is pretty cool, and I can't even imagine the size of the set just to get that wide angle of a shot. Mine came from Amazon and it was absolutely covered in dust. There's also a bunch of really small scratches. If I'd had the option of buying it in-store, I probably would have looked for another one. So for people who buy them online, any little bit of extra protection would really go a long way. Even so, it's not uncommon for big monster truck type toys to be boxed like this. That being said, I did give the 1966 Batmobile a pass, so for packaging, I'm giving the Batmobeast 1 whole point. Moving on to presentation, and we have got a lot of measuring to do. The Batmobeast is 11.5 inches high, 17.5 inches long, and 11.5 inches wide. The tires have a diameter of 5.5 inches, or 3 inches wide, and 5.25 inches apart. And here we go. Sorry, but things were getting a little bit crammed in there. I just set up this makeshift review station at my dining room table because it's the only place in my house big enough for this. So that being said, if the audio is different or inconsistent or there's background noise, please be patient with me. That's why. Initial thoughts, this thing looks pretty cool and is also kind of overwhelming. The entire body is a solid plastic piece with all of the details painted on. There are some sculpted details, but they're not really that crisp. Really, it's just a lot of the painted detail doing the heavy lifting. To be honest, painted really isn't the right word either. Really, it's more printed. It looks like ink shading from a comic book, which is kind of cool. And honestly, with all the things that they can do with wraparounds on actual vehicles, this doesn't bother me. That said, I'm not entirely sure how the logistics of these headlights would work. Also, one thing that does kind of take me out of the illusion is the crack detailing on the windshield. There's no relief to it or anything, it's just a bunch of black outlines drawn on. If you see this and you think it looks good, great. For me, the bigger issue is the material that the body is made out of. I just assumed it was going to be a normal plastic shell, but no. This material is really thin and really flimsy. Really flimsy. Like, I'm afraid to try to take it off flimsy. That being said, to take it off, we twist this and undo these fasteners. Also, be very careful not to lose these. I don't know what it costs to make a giant monster truck, but they couldn't afford something a little bit sturdier than this? One tiny crack and this thing is done for. Luckily, what comes underneath is a lot sturdier. Starting from the front, we have the engine block, complete with its own bat symbol. Of course, we've got a bat steering wheel and bats on the sides by the exhaust. No paint detail, but a great amount of sculpted work underneath the seat and a little platform on the back. And speaking of the back, here we can see the suspension. Don't look too closely though, because they're not sculpted all the way around. And if you're curious, here's a peek at it underneath. Remember in my video on the Batmobile from The Batman, I wondered why it had to have step bars considering how low it was to the ground? Well, you'd think if anything was going to have a step bar, it would be this. Seriously, Batman would have to grapnel gun his way into it every time he wanted to go for a spin. I guess he could climb up the exhaust. Speaking of which, the obvious screw holes really take me out of it. Criticisms aside, and I've saved my favorite part for last, the tires. These things are insane. Just look at these crazy skull bat treads. They're almost like buzzsaws. I consider presentation to be more than just what a toy looks like. I also factor in quality control and how it's made. Hands down, this is one of the coolest looking Batman vehicles I have ever seen, and McFarlane Toys should be very proud of themselves. On the other hand, if there's one thing that a monster truck should never be, it's delicate. For presentation, I'm giving the Batmobeast half a point. Moving on to posability, and I think it would be easier to do this with the shell off. As you've already seen, the tires roll and the steering wheel turns. As always with a vehicle, it's kind of ceremonial, but for posability, I'm giving the Batmobeast 1 whole point. Moving on to playability, and the Batmobeast comes with a trading card. If you want to read it, pause here. TLDR, it's from an alternate universe and has Batman's consciousness uploaded to it. It's pretty much like that Stephen King movie Maximum Overdrive, but with Bat branding instead of the Green Goblin. none. For some vehicular comparisons, here it is with the Adam West Batmobile by McFarlane Toys. I think it goes without saying we're going to have to make some allowances for the tires. Here it is with the new movie Batmobile by Spin Master. And speaking of Spin Master, here it is with the 12-inch scale Cape Crusader Batmobile. Here it is with the Batman Returns Batmissile Batmobile by Kenner. Here it is with the Legends of Batman Batmobile, also by Kenner. Here it is with the Tumbler from the Dark Knight trilogy by Mattel. And lastly, here it is with the Power Attack Total Destruction Batmobile, also by Mattel. The real question, of course, is what figures fit in there? Just trying to get figures in there is kind of difficult because the whole thing's like a jungle gym. Also, plastic capes make it nearly impossible for most Batman figures to sit down. Death Metal Batman fits in there just fine. This is because of the split in the trench coat. Since his cape is relatively short, the Battle Damage Batman can fit in there too. This is appropriate as both of them are based on the art of Greg Capullo. And speaking of Greg Capullo, the DC Designer Series Greg Capullo Batman can fit in there as well. And thanks to his cloth cape, you can also put Batman Year 2 in there. I guess if you wanted to, you could pretend that it's his monster truck from Batman the Cult. And if you've never read that storyline, definitely check it out. I would think that just about any Batman with a cloth cape should work. The NECA one, for example. Or the Batman vs. Ninja Turtles one. Of course, if they don't fit in there, they can always hang off the side. And of course, just about any capeless character can probably fit in the cockpit. A larger-than-life Batman vehicle unlike anything else in your collection, or just a fun monster truck toy. For playability, I'm giving the Batmobeast 1 whole point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. I got the Batmobeast on Amazon for $79.99. For some perspective, that's just about the price of these 3 Batmobiles combined. And now I feel like a cereal commercial. You'd need 3 regular Batmobiles just to equal 1 Batmobeast. For some additional perspective, that's the same price as 4 DC Multiverse figures. That sounds like a good value till we consider this outer shell. Granted, there's a lot going on underneath, but there's also no paint apps. And do you remember that monster truck I used as an example earlier? It used actual springs for its suspension, had a hard plastic shell, and was radio controlled. All that for just a few bucks more. Long story short, it's a great piece, and if you like what you see, you should definitely get it. But if you're willing to be patient, I would definitely recommend waiting until you can get it for a discount. For price, I'm giving the Batmobeast half a point for a grand total of 4 out of 5. For more Batmobile content, check out my look at the 1966 Batmobile by McFarlane Toys, or the new electronic Batmobile from the Batman by Spin Master. Again, I just want to take a moment to apologize for the audio quality. This video was a huge technical challenge for me, and I did the best that I could. Hopefully you enjoyed it for what it was, and if you did, please do me a favor and give it a like. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.